you're doubling down in your Liverpool press conference saying that we were the best team in the competition. It just sounded like whack, bro. I'm not going to lie. You know what I mean? It did.
I mean, I think you're right. Personally, I hear him. Even if Mikel Arteta is right, I'd love to ask him off the record. Like, would you trade places with either Inter or PSG? I'm sure he would. Like, they're in the final. One of them's going to win it. Yeah, you could say the best team doesn't always win the Prem or the Champs, but then I could caveat that with it does, because you've obviously gone all the way and done it. You mentioned pressure quite a few times there, yeah. And I think he's under pressure externally. But do you really think he's under pressure? Because a man signed a new deal. Obviously, there's mitigating factors as to why our season's there. For as many people that want the guy gone or think he's past his time, there's also a lot of supporters. So, like, do you really think he's under pressure?
You know what? That is a very good question. Shout out to you for that. And the way I would answer that is this, right? So it's a 50-50 one. So I think he's definitely under pressure as far as the fans are concerned. I mean, it's interesting that I went to Tesco's this morning and I bumped into a couple of fans, and you know what I mean? It was interesting, their opinions. We'll touch on that later. So yeah, I would say that he's definitely under pressure with the vast majority of the fans. However, I don't think that same pressure applies to the board, who is ultimately his employers. There's no way they're going to get rid of him. Like I was at the game on Sunday, right? And there were fans, especially before the game. And they were saying, listen, man, if we, you know what I mean, he's got to go, this, that, rear. I said, look, there's no way. I mean, the man's just recently signed a contract at Arsenal, extending his contract, his original.
15 million a year. They're not
making him one of the highest paid managers in the world. They're not gonna like throw him out now. I mean, obviously the season's ended disappointingly, but they're not gonna get rid of him now. What I would say though, and this kind of happened to Wenger, if it gets to like halfway through next season, it looks like we're not going to win anything, or we're not improving, or maybe the club's stagnating or even regressing. If you get to a situation where the fans now start openly protesting, especially by, you know, not going to games and stuff like that, and you start seeing
thumbs on seats, the cronkies are like, what's going on here?
Yeah. Then ultimately these guys are money men. They will look at that and think, rah, man, you know what I mean? The franchise is losing money. How long can we put up with that? So, yeah, that's what I would say to that. So, yeah, I think the pressure is more with the fans than it is with the board.
I think you're right there, man. I think it's more external pressures. You know, we all watch the Sky Sports and them kind of things, and we all have the talks, like you said, whether in Tesco's or a pub or whatever. I think it's more externally than internally. That's not to say there isn't any. Do you think it's a bad thing though if he isn't under pressure? Because you know what they say, pressure is a privilege. Of course, I think he puts pressure on himself. I think the players want to. Obviously, you could caveat that with, you know, maybe convincing Saka and Saliba to sign new deals. Do you think it's a bad thing if he's not under a bit of pressure? Because you look at Real Madrid.
Listen, man, I mean, when you're managing Arsenal Football Club, which, let's face it, is one of the biggest clubs in the world as far as football is concerned, the pressure, that's what comes with the territory. That's why he's getting paid all that money. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, you have to be held accountable, not just to the board, but to the fans as well. And if the fans feel that, you know what I mean, they're not getting value for money, or they feel that the club is underachieving, it's incumbent upon the fans to let him know. I mean, it's interesting because, like, you speak to some fans and they're very vocal. They voice their, you know what I mean, displeasure. And then you get another section of the fan base, oh, girl, you lot, this and that. But, like, bro, it's not a cult. You know what I mean?
It's a mixed bag, man.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Why can't you criticize the club? I mean, as long as you, this is how I stay, yeah, Deluded. I'm more than happy. No one is above praise and no one's below criticism. So,
facts.
If you want to criticize somebody, that's fine to me. I've criticized the players, but I've also given them praise. One thing I would say, and this is something that I try to abide by, I never try to make it personal. So some people will criticize, say, for example, Odegaard, and they will say, oh, he had a shit game. And then they'll go on to call him all kind of names. That's not what I do. That's not, I like to think I'm bigger than that. So if I'm criticizing him, I'm criticizing him on his performance or lack thereof. I don't do all the name calling and this and that.
It's childish.
I try myself not to do that stuff because I just don't think that's appropriate. But again, everyone's different, you know what I mean? In the heat of the moment, you know.
But it gets childish though. I'm with you with that. You don't need to do any of that. Like, by all means, criticize the football. You don't need to. We all know the slurs that get thrown around. It's childish, and that you call the team emotional, but then you're showing emotions like unnecessarily.
Yeah, exactly. So, for example, I did a show on my channel the other day in which I spoke about Mikel Arteta's comments. And I said that I thought the comments were disingenuous. I thought they were deflective. I said that, you know what I mean, he was slightly delusional. But I never personalized it. I never said he is an idiot or a fool or a dickhead or whatever. I just focused on the comments. I said, look, those comments to me are bang out of order. But I also said, look, man, the man's a good manager. It's just that I think the problem we've got as Arsenal fans is we all know that he's well, most of us anyway, 90% of the fan base would readily acknowledge that Mikel Arteta is a good manager. However, one trophy in 5 years, close to 750 million spent. Let's be honest, a disappointing campaign. Went out of both domestic cups disappointingly. The league campaign fell away. In my view, the league was lost back in February when we lost at home to West Ham. That was the day when I said, "No."
You're a lot you're a lot nicer than me, Laurie, man. I think it was lost in the summer transfer market.
Well, yeah, I hear that. But to me, the nail in the coffin, you can't be losing at home to West Ham. You remember West Ham as well at that time. The West Ham fans were going in on Potter saying, yo, man.
There was pressure.
Yeah. And he's come to the Emirates and he's beaten us in a game that we had to win. And after that day, I thought, you know what? It's not going to happen this season. It's not, even though statistically and mathematically we were not out of it. But to all intents and purposes, to me, it was gone. So we got to be honest and say the Champions League campaign was good. I actually predicted Deluded at the start of the season that we get to the semi-final.
Give me the lottery numbers, man. You're predicting the wrong things, my boy.
And I did say that we'd finish second if we didn't buy a striker, which we didn't. I remember saying at the start of the season when the guys at AFTV, we did a show and we always asked to give our opinions on what we would do in this season. I said, look, I think we'll finish second in the league because if we don't get a striker, I can't see us overhauling City. So I said that. I said Champions League, I could see us getting to the semi-final because I actually said I think our style of football is very suited to European football.
Heard that a lot, to be fair.
Yeah, I actually said that. But what I did think, though, is that we would win one of the domestic cups. I honestly thought that we would win either the Carabao or the FA Cup. In the end, we went out disappointingly both competitions. I was at the Newcastle game when we got put out, and that was poor. And then against Man United, against, let's be honest, a poor Man United team, we lost on penalties to them. We should have beaten them that day. We had loads of chances, squandered them. So overall, the season has not been great. I mean, the saving grace was the Champions League. But let's be honest, man, it wasn't a good campaign. And I do think that going into next season, there's a lot to reflect on, man.
You just mentioned it. There's a lot to reflect on. And obviously, you're not Mikel Arteta, nor are you a coach. But, like, what do you think? Yeah, so, but you're not alone, man. You're not alone. I probably would have wasted it all on things I can't speak on. But, like, why has it gone like this then for you? Like, what are the reasons as to why we ultimately ended trophyless? Because I actually feel this campaign, bar the Champions League, you know, that I wasn't like you. I didn't think we'd get to the semis. I actually cut the club the most. It's kind of excuses that just get into the knockout stages and kind of play it by ear. Premier League definitely wanted it to be a bit better than this. I'm with you in that I genuinely thought we could get to win a domestic cup. As you said there, United, we didn't do what needed to be done. Got to a semis against Newcastle. But it's like, for you, why, like, what do you put this season down to, or what's the overriding factor? Because it's another one for me where kind of what you said there. I think Mikel Arteta is a good coach, but the question marks are you a winning coach? And until you get over the line, I ain't got a leg to stand on and say, yeah, you are a winning coach, because 3 different seasons, 3 very different contexts. The underlying factor is there's no silverware. So it's like, what's gone wrong this season then, especially in the Premier League? Because
recruitment,
it's
man.
terrible.
Recruitment, I think that was the first and foremost. That was the biggest thing. I mean, listen, you can make a case about the injuries because there's no doubt we have been adversely affected by injuries. You look at the injuries to the likes of Havertz, Saka, Jesus, you know what I mean, Gabriel, you know what I mean? Yeah, we've definitely
now.
But then so have other clubs been affected by injuries adversely. So you can't really use that as an excuse per se. But you listen, you said it yourself, Deluded, a few minutes ago, not investing, and I call it investing. It's not just buying. You're investing in a top quality striker. Once you didn't fill that big gaping hole in the squad, it was very unlikely. I mean, you're asking Havertz and them, man, to get 20+ season. He's never done that in his career, and he's and no disrespect, but it's very unlikely that he's going to do that. He's just not that guy, bro. You know what I mean? Like most teams, I know occasionally teams have City have done it a couple of seasons ago where they won a title without an established number 9. But the minute they got Haaland in that club, man, you know,
they've done the treble.
Yeah, and we haven't had that for some time now. Jesus is a good player, but he's not a gunman. You know what I mean?
He's not a killer.
Havertz is a decent player. He's not a gunman. And once we didn't strengthen in that area, especially in January when we could have got Ollie Watkins and we didn't, I kind of knew that it was going to play out this way. And then you look at our season as well. Like, so 14 draws we've had in 36 games. Now, you think about it, a lot of those games, right? A lot of those games were games that we should have won. What was the reason why we didn't win the games? Because we didn't take our chances.
And we didn't kill the games, yeah, exactly.
Because you haven't got the players to do that.
We should be crying about a lack of clean sheets in a lot of these games, not from 3 points to 1 and whatnot. Like, as this comment says, 21 points dropped from winning positions. It's unacceptable.
Yeah, I mean, look at the Palace game, threw that away. There's been several games.
Bournemouth recently as well.
Yeah. So if you haven't got a striker of the top level, it's you know what I mean, it's a very difficult. I mean, look at Newcastle. They got Isak. Look at the difference he's made to them.
They can finish second if they win their next 2 games, you know.
Well, yeah. I mean, listen, they've already beaten us 3 times this season, so who's to say they won't? I hope
got them on Sunday.
Yeah, exactly. So if you haven't got a top striker, man, it's very, very difficult. The Premier League, man, is a really difficult league to win. There's lots of games, very physical. You're always going to get injuries with that. A lot
of games as well.
Stuff like that. You're in other competitions, man. It's brutal. So you need the squad. And once you don't invest in recruitment and bring in the right guys, difficult, man. And I think that's where we went wrong. With regards to the manager, listen, man, he came very close last season. So I do think that he's probably capable of winning one of the major honours, although he's yet to prove it, hasn't he? Because he's not really. I mean, he won the FA Cup, and that was a big achievement for him. But that wasn't with his squad either, you know what I'm saying? So he needs to build a squad that is capable of winning major honours.
Do you think it's just a case of recruitment? Like you slap a striker in, a left winger in, as maybe a centre mid, some would say, and we win a league? Or do you think there's stuff Arteta has to evolve or do differently tactically? Because some people say he ain't got a plan B.
No, I'm one of them. I think the lack
so am I.
Is palpable.
He lives by his sword, died by his sword, and that has its gifts, but it also has curses.
Guys, right? I'm not being funny. To me, I think he overthinks games. I think he's very meticulous in his approach. You can see that. He's a deep thinker about the game. I'm sure he knows way more about the game than the likes of me. So
and me as well, 100%.
So, you know what I mean? I'm not questioning him there. What I see with him, though, he's very tunnel vision in his approach. And he will just believe that that's going to work all the time. And I'm thinking, yo, bro, you need to.
It's not how life, let alone football, works.
Yeah, his in-game management at time for me doesn't work because he's not proactive and he's not reactive enough. He will let games drift. The amount of times as fans, we saw it in the PSG game in particular, that second game, like you need a goal, bro. You got Wanyeri on the bench, you got options, you're not using them. And if you do, you're bringing them on with like 4 or 5 minutes to go. What do you expect the youth to do with 6 minutes left, literally? And then, you know what I'm saying? Like we play a certain style. You know what I mean? The passing stuff and the control passing and rare, which is fine when it works. But then when it's not working, there seems to be no plan B. We don't take enough shots on goal. Sometimes we're not direct enough.
Facts.
And over the course of a 38-game season, you're coming up against all these different teams with different styles. A lot of the teams as well, they were sitting deep, low block. You know what I mean? You saw it the weekend.
And he hasn't found a way against the low blocks as well.
Yeah, you have to find a way. And sometimes it just doesn't feel that he's doing that. You know what I mean? So, listen, man, I guess it's a learning process for him also. I would hope that in the close season, he will sit down and think, right, you know, how can I improve as a manager? You know what I'm saying? Forget about the players. How can I improve my in-game management? Because if you're going to win things, man, you have to be able to think on the fly. I mean, I will
And
give him
quickly.
some credit. I mean, I'll give you a positive example where he did get it right was the game against Liverpool. Now, I was at that game. First half, we was in danger of getting blown off the pitch, mate. You know what I mean?
Could have been 4-0 very easily.
Could have been. Listen, there was a man next to me saying, "Yeah, anyhow it carries on like that in the second half, I'm going home." That's
cutting out, man.
Right? But to be fair to the manager, he put Martinelli through the middle, and immediately we got a goal, and that worked. You know what I'm saying? So those are the types of things as fans that we want to see. The manager thinking like, how can I get a tune out of this slot? How can I change the formation or bring on some subs that's going to affect the game positively? The subs are always like for like, always in the latter stages of the game. You're talking 75.
When the game's kind of gone.
Yeah, when the game's pretty much finished. It's almost unfair to bring a guy on, right, after the 80th minute and expect him to change. But what's he going to do in 10 minutes? Going to take you about 2 or 3 minutes just to get up to the speed of the game.
Need to get a couple touches in and get ready and up to speed.
How many times have you seen a guy come off the bench and his first couple of touches he's either underhit it, overhit it, you know what I mean, been tackled because they're not up to speed. They've been sitting down for like 70, 80 minutes, and then you're bringing them on and you're expecting them to ghost past, man. Nah, it don't work that way.
And especially when you haven't got, like, respectfully to the subs, like, even it would be difficult, but like even if you had, I don't know, a Mo Salah on the bench or someone crazy, then I might kind of hear it. And you will get a couple of times across the season, like Reece Nelson off the bench against Bournemouth. You're a bit of a hero, and Ketia was notorious for that. But 9 times out of 10, it really and truly isn't going to happen. You touched on the Liverpool game. Did you see Mikel Arteta's post-game comments? I actually felt he was a bit hard. I think there's been times where I want him to be harsh on the boys, and he's not. I actually think watching the game, he was quite harsh on the players, man. I don't think the first half was that bad, if I'm honest with you. We could have conceded 4-5 once it went to 2-0, but I think it was end-to-end. I don't think we took our chances. But, yeah, what did you make of the Liverpool game as well, man?
Right, so, yeah, so the Liverpool game, I've got to be honest, man.
There as well.
Yeah, when we went up there, we was all saying, listen, man, we want the players to, like, show out because it's all about Liverpool today, isn't it? It was their first game back after winning the title.
Guard of honor.
Don't forget they'd lost the previous week against Chelsea. A lot of their fans weren't happy with that performance. So they was expecting the big party. They had the guard of honor. I mean, even before the game, being up there in the city, it was a nice day. Beer red, all the fans are out singing. There was like impromptu concerts outside the stadium, you know what I mean? And we was all looking at each other thinking, yeah, man, these men are going to be on it today. That's Liverpool. So what we got to do, we got to show out. You know what I mean? We got to show the right attitude, show some integrity, not just for Arsenal Football Club, but for the league. You can't just go up there and swallow it. You're in the lines there and you got to perform. So we were saying, if the players show the right attitude, it will be a good game because, you know, Liverpool are on it. So the game starts now. I thought for me personally, for the first 5-10 minutes, I thought we were as equal to Liverpool. In fact, Saka had a really good chance that a guy of his quality should really have scored. But then you could see that Liverpool were dangerous, especially on the counter. And then they score, I think it was in the 20th minute. Cody Gakpo totally marked at the near post, scored goal. That was poor. And then within a minute of that, we concede again. Now, at that point, man, I looked to my left and right, and everyone was like, rah, this is going to be a long day. And it was hot, brethren. You know, you can imagine. Because where we were, there was the stand. There was no shade. So the heat was just beating down, man. And everyone was looking at each other at halftime thinking, no.
This could get very dark for us.
Seriously wrong. This could go seriously wrong. But to be fair to the manager, and I don't know what he said to them at halftime. I'd love to have been a fly on the wall. I reckon he cursed them out because in the second half, they came out and they did show the kind of heart and resilience and character that we wanted them to show. And I think that getting that first goal, our first goal so quickly after the restart helped. We grew into the game. And by halfway through that game, Deluded, we were saying, yo, man, hey,
might nick this.
Good. We get the second goal. Odegaard decides he's going to shoot, which is great because that's what we've been calling for weeks. Really good shot. Unfortunately, not to score. Mourinho, to his credit, he read it well. His instincts took him there, got the second goal. And after that, to me, anyway, being at the ground, I was thinking, yeah, we're going to beat them. You know what I mean? I was thinking, yeah, man, we look the better team. We look more comfortable than them. The crowd, we quieted them down. You know what I mean? It was the Arsenal fans that were singing. And then Mourinho, stupidly, in my view, gets himself. I don't know what he's doing there. A lot of people have criticised Raya for the past, but to me, a guy of Mourinho's experience and talent should not be doing that. I mean, he's basically committed a double yellow card.
Exactly.
In one play.
You can see the amount of red. We've had 6 red cards this year. It's mad.
Yeah. So then you've gone from 2-2 and looking like you're going to win to 2-2 and looking like now you're going to have to try and defend for your lives to save the game, which we did without too much discomfort. I know there was that incident at the end where they thought they'd scored, but it was clearly a foul by Konate. I think one of their guys was offside as well. So listen, the game ended 2-2, and for me, I thought a draw was a fair result. They were the better team in the first half. We were the better team in the second half. But yeah, so I thought a draw was fair.
I don't think you can disagree with that, man. You know, it's normally us that. I guess if I was a Liverpool fan, I know it's of little consolation, and yeah, you want to keep standards and all of that, but you're in party mode. Your players are probably drunk. It's probably 2 points dropped for them and a point gain for us because obviously we found 2 goals. It kind of shows our resilience and whatnot. I was impressed with Odegaard. I actually think Trossard had a good game. I think Odegaard had a good game. I actually think Martinelli looked good in the 9. But before I ask you about them kind of things, yeah, what have you made of the 6 red cards this season, man? Have we got a discipline issue? Are we being treated harshly by refs? Is it a bit of everything? Like, where are you at with it? You got to address this.
I don't go along with that. Ty, sort of. If you speak to Ty, shout out to Ty.
Big up Ty, man.
He will tell you that the refs have, got this big conspiracy going against them. Nah, man. I mean, if you look at those sending off. So, for example, I was at the Bournemouth game when Saliba got sent off. That was his fault, bro. He should not have done that. The minute he did that, we all knew he was going to go. The Declan Rice sending off, I thought was harsh. That one where against Brighton, I think it was. Where he,
I was there. I actually put the Brighton lad got sent off when I was at the ground. I couldn't believe Rice came off. But rules are rules.
I mean, I guess it's within the rules, but it was still harsh, man. I mean, he did delay the restart slightly, but come on, bro. That was.
People should be given red cards or second yellows every week, I feel. With
if you notice, well, they're not really doing that no more, that rule. Because
every game we finish with 10 men.
Yeah. I thought the Trossard sending off against City, I thought he was in the wrong there. He's kicked the ball away. He said he never heard it. What he's doing. But when I think he knew what he's doing. I think the Mars Lewis Skelly one, I think that was a sending off, to be honest.
Which one? The Wolves one or the West Ham one?
Not the, which is the one where he got a straight red, didn't he, for tripping up the guy? That should have been a yellow.
I think that was the Wolves one. I could be wrong though.
But yes, for the most part, the sending offs appeared to be largely fair or within the rules. And that doesn't help, does it? Because as soon as you go down to 10 men, your chances of winning a game of football are pretty much gone. Yeah, pretty much gone. Unless you're like 3-4 ahead before it happened. And then when you're getting sent off against the likes of City and teams like that, when you ever get sent off against a good team, like, so for example, Liverpool, you're not going to win that game. Because like I said, because up until that point when Mourinho got sent off, we were really looking. We all felt in the ground that Arsenal were going to go on and win that game.
Kills your momentum.
Yeah. As soon as that happened now, the whole game, the whole dynamic changes. You go from attacking to having to defend what you got.
Yeah.
I mean, the mindset changes. So yeah, I do, in answer to your question, I do think that they definitely do have to address that, because you're not going to win games of football when you go down to 10 men. And obviously the margins are tight at the top. Yeah. So when you're dropping points like that, it's not a good look.
And it sucks, man, because then you look at it, like we've gone 746 days unbeaten against the big six. And there was a time, during the Emirates, there was a time these kind of games, they were instant write-off. We used to get embarrassed. And I would say, recent, I was maybe when it was 2-0 at Anfield, as you're saying, you was at the ground, maybe the PTSD might have been kicking in with the supporters that, we might hold a drum in here. It's a mix. This is what I mean about Arsenal. Like, there's a mixed bag. I don't think we're as good as some people make out. I definitely don't think we're as horrible as people make out. I just feel this season we've stagnated, we've regressed. There's been an air of complacency. There's obviously been revs and injuries, and everything's just gone wrong, man. And I think, I look at the 2022-23 season. So the year Martinelli was great and whatnot. We was great in the final third, or a good attacking side. We needed to improve defensively. Last year, we was a good defensive side. I don't feel there's a standout kind of attribute this year in comparison to both of them, both of the previous years. So that's where I'm with you in that. obviously he's the Arsenal manager, Arteta. There's a lot he needs to learn, but I would say for him as a manager, this could be a serious season of reflection. Before I ask you about a couple of individual performances, appreciate this from BG, my moderator. It kind of is a decent question. He said, DG/Laurie, or she better yet, what's your perspective on the mentality of the squad with the top teams who have an open style of play? They do well. Mid/low blocks are a problem, and they usually capitulate/underperform. What do you reckon to that?
Yeah, I reckon there's some truth to that. We definitely have a problem in breaking teams down. And I spoke earlier about style of play. And one of the things I'd like to see the manager work on in the close season, I mean, obviously we got friendlies and stuff like that. I'd like to see him work on that we need a plan B in terms of our style of play, because what we've been is very predictable. So when we play teams that adopt the low block, what they tend to do, they sit deep, right? And then they'll force us out wide. And then, you know what I mean? We're having trouble getting behind them. We're not shooting enough. We're not direct enough. And you need to mix it up a little bit, you know what I mean? Because if a team sits deep, think about it, right? Everything's in front of them. It's not, I wouldn't say it's easy for them, but it's easier than if you mix things up. You know what I'm saying? So you've got to have a plan B when a team's play like that. Obviously, you're going to try and pass through the lines. But if it's not working, you've got to go wide. You know what I mean?
You've got to disrupt the shape.
And especially when you're getting, right? I mean, you look at some of our games. I looked at some of the stats the other day. Some of those games that we drew, right? We were getting in those games upwards of 70% possession. Now, when you're getting much possession, you should be having more shots on goal. You know what I mean? You've seen that when you shoot, bro, that